Good evening and welcome to this session of Bringing Law to Life. My name is Vanette and I am the Head of Equality, Diversity, Inclusion and Accessibility for the Faculty of Business and Law. I'm also a Student Experience Manager and Associate Lecturer in the Open University Law School. I'm joined tonight by my fellow Student Experience Manager, Merrick Tooth, who will be helping me out with the tech. And I'm delighted to welcome this evening our colleague, Emily Tanner. Emily Tanner began her career as a solicitor, and she has segued that into an academic career. Welcome, Emily. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Will we start, Emily, by you telling us a little bit about what you do and how you got to this place in your profession?
Well, yeah, I'm an associate lecturer at the OU and have been now for over 15 years. But I started out as a solicitor in commercial and residential property and also some private client work as well. I got there by I did the standard 3-year LLB law degree. I did my postgrad, which was then the LPC, which has been gradually phased out. And then I did a 2-year training contract at a high street firm where I did a little bit of everything and then specialised in residential and commercial property for just under 10 years. And then made the move across to teaching.
Thanks, Emily. So that leads to that crucial question. What advice do you have for our students about gaining experience, gaining those training contracts?
It can be really overwhelming. There's so many firms out there. I think your initial thought should be with where do you want to end up? Do you want to end up in a smaller firm where you get a lot of client contact, or do you want to be in a much larger sort of more mainstream firm, maybe in a larger city, where you might be part of a larger team but might not necessarily get that client contact? But in terms of applications, I think you need to really try and focus your applications onto where you want to end up, so that it isn't just a generalized send your CV to all and sundry, although that can be fruitful as well. But I'd also say work experience. If you can get any kind of work experience or work shadowing that you can put on your CV, or it may even be that whilst you're doing that work shadowing or work experience, you gain those contacts that you need to get your foot in the door, to get a training contract or paralegal position or something within the firm. If you get on with them and they like you, then you can build up those relationships in that way.
Really valuable to be a bit selective and to scrutinize where you want to be. Thanks, Emily. And I'll just take the opportunity to remind our audience that if you have any questions for Emily, please do put them in the question and answer box and we'll get to them at the end. So, Emily, how accessible or diverse is the legal profession in your experience?
I think it's very accessible to anybody that is willing to work hard. It's not an easy profession, but it can be incredibly rewarding. But I think if you can show your strengths, it's incredibly accessible to anybody, depending on what area of law that your interest is in.
We like to hear that it's diverse, not only in terms of its representation, but also in terms of, the various different skill sets that people can bring, depending on your own interests and experiences. Do you have any advice for our students to overcome any hurdles of accessibility?
I think being honest about what your needs are, and then a firm can help you in terms of what you might need, or what you might find easier. And yeah, other than that, there shouldn't really be, firms should be incredibly inclusive, and if they're not, you might want to question, is that the kind of place that I want to work? But there shouldn't really be, especially with a law firm, there shouldn't be those kind of hurdles to overcome, really.
Thanks, Emily. Have you encountered any specific equality, diversity, inclusion, or accessibility issues in the legal profession?
Not personally. I mean, I've worked with many disabled people that have access issues. That's not hard to overcome. That the necessary adjustments were made for offices and accessibility and things like that. So generally speaking, a lot of firms nowadays are in larger, more modern office buildings. So that should hopefully not be something that people have to worry about. It's certainly not something that I personally come across as being any kind of stumbling block or issue.
Thanks, Emily. That's very encouraging to hear. So you mentioned that you've had colleagues who are disabled. Who else have you been working with in your career?
So all manner from support staff, receptionists, office juniors, accountants, right through to senior managing, owning partners. So a great broad spectrum of abilities and needs and knowledge and awareness, really.
Yeah, that's good to hear that, working in a law firm is not just for lawyers. There's a
No,
wide variety of
no.
staff roles that make up the legal business and the operations.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, as I always, would say to people, yes, I was a successful solicitor, but I was only, successful and streamlined and good at what we did because I had a fantastic assistant and support team behind me.
Amazing. Thank you, Emily. So thinking back to that period, how would you describe your work-life balance and how has it changed?
It's an interesting one. I think it very much depends on the firm and the firm's ethos as to their hours and how they manage their workloads. That will vary massively between firms. You've got more larger, possibly more modern, forward-thinking firms that are very pro work-life balance, pro perhaps working from home and juggling a family, and then you might have the sort of the older, more traditional firms where that kind of flexibility and working away from the office isn't as welcomed or encouraged. So I think it is very much about looking at the firms that you want to work for in terms of how you want your work-life balance to appear and look overall. I'd say generally my work-life balance as a solicitor was quite good, but that's only because I put in place quite strict boundaries. Yes, I did take work home with me. Yes, I did have some early starts, but I made sure that I left at a certain time. And I think as long as you're meeting your targets and getting your work done, that should be acceptable. With teaching, it's a completely different type of work-life balance. There's a lot of flexibility, but also stuff that needs to get done in a certain amount of time, just like any job really, or the marking and being on the end of email for students is just as important as being on the end of email for clients. So it's very similar.
It's good to hear that there are some transferable skills between the legal profession and if you want to, or ultimately do segue into an education role. And indeed, we do have some of our alumnus who come back to teach for us as well. In your journey along the way, Emily, did you have any specific role models or mentors?
I had a very helpful gentleman that I did work experience with in a lovely little firm in Bath. And I didn't end up working there or doing my training contract there or anything else, but he just offered that opportunity to see what he did on a day-to-day basis, to bring me back over various summer holidays whilst I was at university to just get experience and be within that legal office environment. And although he did want to give me a job at the end of it, but I was in a different area of the country, but it just gave that kind of experience gives you that confidence when you go for job applications that that once you get into that office environment, it's not going to be as daunting or as scary because you spent a couple of summers doing it. And he was always at the end of the phone to ask any questions or procedural things. I could just sort of ask him without necessarily initially asking your new superior, because you don't want to appear that you're needy already. But yes, I think if you can find that kind of someone that will just show you the ropes and what really happens in a law firm on a day-to-day basis and someone that you can sort of pick up the phone and ask is really valuable.
It's very encouraging that those people are out there. Do you have any advice for our students on how they can find role models or mentors like this?
Well, I met him at a birthday party, so
okay. So
he was my friend's uncle that had a law firm, so I just went, oh, hello. I'd
the
quite like to do
importance of
law.
a work-life balance, exactly.
Yeah, so I'd say be assertive and introduce yourself to people. If you know that there's someone in a tennis club, at a party, a drama group that you might be involved in, the village committee, whatever you might have access to in terms of people. You might have an accountant there, you might have a solicitor there, you might have a florist there, all these people that generally put together a village fete or something will have all these skills that you might not know at first sight. And don't be afraid to ask, and just say, oh, do you happen to have any spare capacity for me to just come and sit and watch what you do for a few days?
A little bit of self-publicity. I'm a law student, I'm looking for experience. And see who answers. A little bit of cold calling, it's a strength, it goes a long way.
Exactly. Yeah, just put yourself out there a little bit. And generally speaking, if it's a lawyer receiving it, they'll think, oh, that's a confident person. I'd quite like to know a bit more about them.
Absolutely. And I think that, there's a lot that says that about people when you make that first initial cold call, and not to always be waiting for the opportunities to come to you, but to go out and actively and proactively search for them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, anything you can volunteer for, or just Citizens Advice is another really, really great place to start. If you can volunteer at the Citizens Advice, you can meet all sorts of people.
Yeah, and they also do some wonderful training as well in-house, so you can take advantage of those further opportunities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Emily, for sharing some of the insights and experience into your career journey as a solicitor and segueing into academia. Joanna, do we have any questions?
No questions in the Q&A box.
And whatsoever. I'll pause for a moment. Would anybody like to ask Emily any questions? You can pop them in the question and answer box, and we'll take a moment to see if you have any questions for Emily about working as a solicitor, gaining that initial experience. Any questions about the training contracts or the process?
We've got a hand up from Paul, but we're not able, unfortunately, Paul, to turn microphones on. Are you able to pop your question in the Q&A box, please? Okay, so Emily, I'll just read out the question. How are experiences translate from across all jurisdictions accepted between them?
Oh, that's interesting. I'm guessing that you're wondering if you've had experience in one jurisdiction, how transferable that would be, or how welcoming that would be to a firm in another jurisdiction. I've not had any personal experience of that, but I know of people that have gone from practicing in one jurisdiction to another, one country to another, and it's been very welcomed, because generally firms are really interested in that ability to understand and know about different jurisdictions and those kind of transferable skills. There's a lot of law that is transferable and repeated in certain jurisdictions. So, you know, not all of it is going to be completely different anyway. So, yeah, I think that would be, you know, quite welcomed. It certainly shows your ability to be more diverse and more transferable in doing whatever what chosen pathway you're going for.
Sorry, I've just noticed that Nicola added that is across the UK. Sorry, that was the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same answer, to be honest. Then, really, I think if you've got, you know, specific skills in different jurisdictions, they're going to be welcomed wherever, as long as if you're going for a job application, I suppose that you are qualified in the areas that they're looking for.
Yeah, so Nicola's also added advising with the CAB varies across the UK as an example.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I'm sure it does. It's not something that I've done personally.
Some interesting insights there. Do we have any other questions?
Yes. What's been the most challenging part of your legal career journey?
Crikey. I think that initial transfer from that kind of step from finishing your training contract, because I did the training contract route, to suddenly getting my first job as a newly qualified solicitor. It can be very suddenly kind of, you've got a caseload, you've got clients, and that can escalate quite quickly, going from what essentially is a student environment to a full-on learning fee earning status. So that can be quite daunting. And because I was in conveyancing, I mean, most firms will have some kind of target system, you know, where you have to bring in a certain amount of money each month, each year, and that can be quite a challenge to make sure that you're hitting those targets. But equally, having those kind of target set for you can be quite a rush as well, because you can set your own kind of targets in your head, and it can be really motivating to kind of, I want to beat that this month. So challenging but also rewarding at the same time. But I think that transition from training contract to newly qualified is quite a big jump.
Yeah, it's a lot of learning on the job about those soft skills and about what's going on behind the scenes, and the things that, well, we don't really teach you in law school, like how to get those clients, how to retain those clients, how to access those billable how to achieve those billable hours. Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the culture. So if you can get experience in that, then you're actually ahead of the game.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely for those of you who are thinking of going into private practice in that area. Joanna, do we have another question?
No, we don't. But I can see that Paul has got his hands up, so I'm not sure if Paul is not able to put the question in the Q&A box. Are
we able to do anything there? Can we allow the mic?
No, I'm not able to do it, unfortunately, because I don't have the permission.
Will I try?
Yeah, you can try.
Paul, are you able to come on the microphone and ask your question?
Well, hello.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Sorry, I couldn't find the Q&A box.
Oh, dear.
Sorry. Yeah, all I wanted to ask was, what was really concerning me, I will be 60 this year. How much of a barrier will that be for me to get into the legal profession? Thank you.
I don't think it needs to be a barrier at all. I think it very much depends on your outlook and your confidence into what you can add to a firm. You know, you've got life experience. You might not necessarily have the legal experience, but you've got life experience of dealing with, you know, depending what you've done in previous professions, dealing with people and everything else. So I think if you can sell yourself in that respect, I don't see that it should be a barrier for you. Good luck. Good for you.
We've
Thank
always
you.
had mature students at the Open University,
Very
but
much
we
so.
are increasingly seeing in law schools and in the legal profession an increase in people studying who are in their later years of life as either second or even third careers, or something that they are passionate to do in their retirement years. And obviously, we are seeing firms ready and willing to capitalize on people who are older but have this enormous wealth of experience and expertise that they can bring together from the diverse strands of their working life into professional practice. So I would not be disheartened, Paul.
I can see somebody's just posted more of a comment in the chat, but with reference to the question about the age being as a barrier, saying probably not much. Isn't the retirement age going up so fast? We'll be working until we are 100 soon.
Well, thanks very much for that comment. I hope we live well into 100 so that we can carry on doing jobs that are worthwhile and meaningful, and that we get a bit of buzz out of whatever we're going to be doing. Wonderful. Would anybody else like to ask Emily a question?
I'm not sure if Paul's hand is a legacy hand or is it a new hand.
Oh, sorry, it's the old one. It's still up. Sorry.
It's a legacy hand. Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you for your question. Joanna, will we have the slides up?
Sure, 1 second.
Thank you. So speaking quite pointedly to that question about gaining experience and transferring it from one jurisdiction to another, I'm going to take this opportunity to highlight the career and employability services and resources that we have here at the Open University. There is a specific one for law-specific resources on Law Study Home website. You can get the information that you need about accessing the legal profession and how to use your law qualification. We also have a help centre at the Careers and Employability Service, and this contains everything from downloadable guides, online resources and tools, and advice and activities to help you plan out that career path. There's also a planning guide to help you map out your pathway for your career, and an opportunity hub to find opportunities and to be able to book onto a workshop. We also have some interesting tools that use artificial intelligence. They are CV 360 and Interview 360, which will allow you to improve and develop your curriculum vitae and also to develop your skills in being interviewed. You can also make an appointment and contact a careers consultant. Now, the Careers and Employability Services is available to all our students and alumni for any time up to 3 years afterwards. You can access these tools, these resources, you can attend our events, and you can contact and have an appointment with a careers consultant. On the left-hand side of the screen, there are also some further resources on how to build your career with confidence and to navigate your future activity pathway. And I'm also just going to highlight on the screen a link to our survey. We'd very much appreciate your feedback on how well you enjoyed and how helpful you have found this Bringing Law to Life session. Thank you, Jana, for sharing the slides. And can I have a round of applause and a big thank you to our colleague, Emily Tanner, for sharing with us her experiences and her pathway through her career, all the way to becoming an academic, from being a solicitor, for sharing her insights on how to access the legal career, how to gain experience, how to find mentors and role models, and getting some insights about what it's like in a career and how to make that work for you. So thank you very much, Emily, for joining us. Thank you, Joanna, for providing the tech, and thank you, everybody, for joining us and for your wonderful questions this evening. Thank you so much. I'll close the recording now.
Thanks, everyone.